like a battery.
Fantastic. We went live just as you said that. Good morning. My name is Dale Rodriguez. This is FM. Today with me, I've got a veteran of the show, Mark Cowieson.
A
Hey,
veteran.
Mark.
You make me feel old. Good
Well,
morning.
first of all, you saved the day that time when someone else couldn't come in. Like you just kind of jumped on, which is great. And you do kind of watch occasionally and comment. So genuine gratitude. Thank you
No
for
problem.
joining me.
I think it's on at the right time for me, and I think I'm just, had a busy morning and get to see and meet new people. That's what LinkedIn's about, and get to see what other people are up to, and I've normally got something to say. So if there's an ability to share that in some sort of forum that makes sense and get some feedback on it, then I'm quite happy to do that.
Okay. Let's get down to business. I'm going to ask you a serious question first. None of my silly questions, because you've already done silly questions. You are the CEO of LHR Marine Limited. To some of our younger viewers, because again, I've realised we actually have some students who watch this and they want to know about business and progression. How do you come about being the CEO of a multi-million-pound company?
So, as you can see from these wonderful, no work's been done, but I ain't no spring chicken. But, I left school. At school, I had an idea I wanted to do a bit of engineering. I mean, I come from the northeast of Scotland, Aberdeen, so very prevalent. When I left school, the oil industry was very strong. So I knew I wanted to do something in that area, but I kind of focused on, sciences at school because I felt I wanted to do something in engineering. So I did a 4-year technical apprenticeship when I left school with a company called Sparrows, very well known in the kind of crane and lifting business. And during my apprenticeship, I got involved in hydraulics engineering. So hydraulics, cranes work with hydraulic pumps, motors, such like. So I kind of got involved in that space, and then got a little bit involved in the design engineering, having done. I was a day release at local technical college doing I've got an HNC in mechanical engineering. So I had a little bit of the engineering side, the sciences through from school, and obviously the application of working offshore for several years. I was a service engineer, a troubleshooter, spent a bit of time going around the world, and then wanted to have wife with kids, so came back and settled down and fell into like management roles. Again, doing the same. Good morning, Randy. Again, doing kind of similar work in the kind of service and crane engineering side, but more in a management role. Learning a little bit about commercial management. I managed one of the roles I did. I kind of managed crane maintenance contracts and got to know.
So just jump in. You said commercial management.
Yes.
Can you kind of just define what that is?
So commercially managing a contract in some way, shape, or form that has a financial value, and you have a responsibility within that to be able to keep the customer happy, but also make money for your own organisation. So there's a commercial agreement between two companies whereby you work hard to maintain and improve the relationship, but also give the customer value for money, as well as at the end of the day, the reason we're all in business is to make profit. So as long as you're making
Did you get mentored in that, or did you shadow someone, or was it just thrust upon you and you were like single swift?
A bit of both, but I had a very good contracts manager when I was at a company called SMS who had kind of seen it all and done it all, had been in that flavour and really gave me some good insights into that space around about day rates for people going offshore, how to put times 1.43 in your calculator to get your margins, and you know what, like.
No, yes, simple stuff, but it makes sense. I get it.
Makes sense, but have an understanding of what all those things actually meant. When you're a technician and you're working on equipment, you don't know what profit margin is. You don't know why a business exists unless I did at college. I got some of the sessions I did was around business management, but it's not until you actually fall into that and managing contracts that you really understand the kind of deep downs of it.
So I kind of want to drill into that. That sounds really good. So you mentioned that you did kind of business management study at college, but when you were actually doing it, there was a slight difference. What was the difference, and was it particularly jarring, or was it, unexpected? What was the difference? Can you define it?
So obviously you get the basics, but when you're negotiating with an individual who has a very different viewpoint to yourself, that's where the challenges come in. I recently, last year, 2 years ago, I did it's part of the law degree course. I did a course at commercial management at the local university, and I learned a tremendous amount. They gave us real life examples. One of them was a nightclub in Edinburgh that was sold, for example, and there was a non-compete clause in the sale, and the non-compete clause was to need me a fist. Like it.
We'll explain that later to those people watching. Andrew Ward, need me a fist. We'll get to that.
And what the really interesting thing was that the company had sold to a competitor, but they wanted to put a non-compete clause that they would not put live music in play, or not do live music. Exactly. So, but the people who took over put on a DJ on a Friday night, and it became the most popular place in Edinburgh. So the company who sold it took the other company to court based on that non-compete clause, and then you had a whole background information and a case built on what the definition of live music actually was. Because in the company who bought its eyes, they believed live music was someone playing a guitar or an instrument. That was live music. Whereas, the company who sold it felt that somebody playing a record was also live music. So it gave me a real good insight into commercial definition in contracts. And I had one particular I used to manage about £55 million contracts with Shell and such like. And I remember one item where a new contracts manager or contracts holder had come into the role, and the company Shell had decided that anyone, good morning, or good afternoon now, anybody who was going to work on their installations needed to wear special gloves, impact gloves. But commercially, and this was throughout the whole of Europe, so any offshore installation for Shell, everybody needed to wear gloves all the time. But in our commercial contract...
Stupid question. I think it's the name kind of explains what it is, but what is an impact glove?
So an impact glove...
Sounds quite obvious.
As I impact... So that's a glove.
Yep.
But you'll see there's some rigid rubber on the outside. So if someone's wearing a glove and they're going to hit it off of something or hit it with a hammer, the ridges absorb an impact, protecting the hands and the fingers. So that's an impact glove. But you could pay, at that time, in our commercial contract with Shell, or with the company that shall not be named, we had we had a specific clause that stated that as a contractor, we paid for all industrial gloves. And you take that word, industrial gloves, and you go back to live music, and this individual said, right, we're going to move to this, so therefore you have to pay for all these new gloves. Now, we went from, when the contract was written, at paying £2-3 a pair of gloves. Imagine you had 400 or 500 employees on that contract, to suddenly £150,000, £200,000 extra charges for my business on that particular contract, because the company wanted to bring this law into, or this new rule in. And that's a case of it going through arbitration, trying to suss out.
Okay, it got serious.
It got very serious. It got, the wording of what an industrial glove actually was. So I'm not going to say it's interesting. It takes a bit of toil, but when you come down to commercial agreements and what is actually in the T's and C's, it's very good. And a really good thing that I learned from the last that course I did at uni was at what point does a sale become agreed? At what point do you agree? Do you finally agree it? And they actually based it on buying a Burger King. So when you go to order, when you go to order something at a drive-through, at what point has that sale actually been agreed and finalised?
When the transaction happens with your bank card, when you tap that on the card reader.
It's actually when you get the goods and you're satisfied with the goods is when the transaction is complete.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a, you know, you can take that into the real world about when a transaction's actually completed or not. But there's a technical term for it which I can't remember. But yeah,
that's cool.
It's quite interesting. I advise someone if they're involved in commercial contracts, go and do an 8-week short course on that from their local university. It'd be very similar, but actually real life.
So would you
really
say? Good. Sorry. Would you say in your day-to-day and in your rise to becoming a CEO, as it were, you've had to learn about the intricacies of commercial activity?
Yes,
like,
absolutely. I've needed to know what a finance software or the finances within the software, what a balance sheet is, what profit and loss is, management of profit and loss, you know, what drives behaviors in a business around those particular elements. So yeah, that's what it's. I think the other thing about a CEO is you need to be able to. The most crucial part of my job is the promotion of the business, as well as setting the direction for the business and making sure that my team understand fully what the direction of the business is and how I can help them facilitate the end point or the delivery towards what we're looking to do. At the end of the day, we are specialists in marine and safety equipment. I don't want our business to be just about selling a widget. The guys and girls who work for us, we spend a lot of time giving them knowledge of the actual products, so that if someone comes and asks us for something, they'll know and understand what the product is or what an alternative may actually be. Because half the time when people come and buy stuff from us, they don't actually know what they want. So the whole point of the sale or the point of setting yourself apart from your competition is having a group of individuals work for you that can actually make the customer feel that they've been advised properly and they've got what they wanted at a reasonable price in a reasonable timescale.
Okay. So jumping on what you just said about sales, in your organization, do you have a sales director or do you hire salespeople yourself?
So I have internal salespeople. We chose about 12 years ago to not have an external salesperson. We've been going since 2000. We've built up a very good number of clients and customers who come back and use us based on our quality of customer service. But we have a very good website that we do spend a bit of time managing, and we seem to get an awful lot of flow through sales. So right now, other than myself going out and drumming up new business and going to trade shows and such like, I'm going to be doing a bit of that myself. I don't have a person who goes out externally selling products to the business. The products kind of sell themselves, and people soon get to recognize. One of the things I've done in the last 2 years here is we never used to keep stock or sufficient stock of certain items, and it was one of the things when we went to new systems, we were able to do that analysis to say, you know what, we're selling 10, 12 of these a month. Why are we only stocking 2 of them or 3 of them? We should really be stocking X amount, and that's we've taken the business a long way in the past 2 years to actually increase our stock holding from used to keep about 200,000. We're now 1.2 million in stock holding, and we're recognised that when people come to us, we've typically got it, and we can deliver it either that day, that afternoon, or that week, depending where your location is. So that's
cool. I mean, how important is delivery time in kind of supply chain logistics and
in oil and gas? It's it's an unwritten rule that they want it yesterday. And there is an element of, by the time it gets to purchase order, it's probably been 3 weeks from a poor guy asking for it offshore who needs it for a project. By the time it gets through all the internal wranglings within their business, getting a quotation, having to go through 4 gates of approval for a £50 widget or something like that. it's 3 weeks before you get it. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, in certain items, it's a game changer having it in stock and being able to deliver it same day. There's other stuff that we know we can get next day or get quite readily that we choose not to, but it's having the staff, training the staff to understand what they're doing on a daily basis, what they're selling, and you know, to get that knowledge themselves and come to me and challenge me and say, Mark, we're not keeping enough of these. We should be keeping X, Y, and Z, or challenging the ops team, you know, to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah. So. You mentioned the length of the company, so 2000, did you say? So, okay, so that's a 23-year history.
Yeah, family business, still family owned.
Awesome. The reason why I'm going to go down this track is obviously 23 years is a long time, and a lot has changed in our society in terms of energy, and you do work in energy. Have you seen an impact in the last 20 years on how we farm energy, supply energy, in terms of your business, and what has that impact been?
So we don't use the word oil and gas anymore, or a lot of people don't like to use it. It's you know, with the risk of becoming political, it's a dirty word. It's a dirty word. So we're in energy, and energy supply. But you know, from our perspective, we still, you know, we started off in the oil and gas industry supplying anchor connectors to the oil and gas industry. The customer base that we built up. On you go.
What's an anchor connector? An
anchor connector is a big bit of steel that connects a chain to an anchor. So if you've got a rig or a boat and you want to stop it moving in the water, you need to put an anchor into the seabed, and you need to connect that to the vessel somehow. So you've typically got link chain and then anchor connectors and chain connectors.
Cool. I'm just going to speak to the viewers very quickly. I ask the dumb questions so you don't have to. It's a very obvious thing, but like, you know, just in case you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the oil industry is really bad for 3-letter words, and because I've been in it for so long, you know, I'll just rattle them off, whether it's a BOP, an OIM, an FPSO, and a such and such, you know, but you forget that people don't necessarily understand what those things are. So, you know, I do catch myself on a couple of times, something to be do a little more explaining than I probably needed to.
Right. Do you mind if I go into a slight different tangent? Okay. What is the best thing about working offshore, and what's the worst thing about working offshore?
Best thing about working offshore is you don't need to make your bed. It gets made for you, and you get your laundry done for you. That's the best thing.
Nice.
Many would argue it's probably the money, maybe not so much anymore, but it certainly used to be. That depending on the type of role you're in, some would say the time off. I started off as a service engineer doing 330 days away a year. So you work that out, how much days that's left, to working in Norway on a 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off rotation, which actually is the worst rotation in the world. It really is horrible. It's one of those rotations where I had 5 back-to-backs. It took me 2.5 days to read handover notes when I arrived on the wreck, and then that's it.
So with that rotation, were you living in Scotland and then going to Norway for 2 weeks and then going
living in Scotland, flying to Norway? You'll like this. Flying the day before down to via Amsterdam to then up to Oslo, overnighting in Oslo, and then taking a charter flight up to Brønnøysund, which was at the right north. It's a unofficial whaling capital of Europe, or that, you know, unofficial whaling capital. I'll use that word. Brønnøysund, which is right up north, and it snows a lot there. Cracking pub. I'm just going to say no more. With a British phone box, British phone box inside. Believe it or not, you find
when someone says "I'll say no more."
Places.
When you say "I'll say no more," I've got to go into that a little bit more. Why is the pub in Brønnøysund so?
It's just awesome. It really is. Live music any night of the week. Rock music, which is what I kind of liked. Live rock music, great banter. As I say, it had a British phone box inside the pub that actually had a payphone in it, and then you had you could obviously get reindeer as a snack. So you got some reindeer
Nice.
Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous place. But no, that's that.
When you say rock music, what do you mean? By the way, what do you mean by rock music? Because that's a very
I'm into modern rock. I use the word modern rock music, but I do like rock music from the 70s. Not hard metal. Not a big massive AC/DC Metallica fan, but more kind of modern American rock. I like Goo Goo Dolls, Lifehouse, Three Doors Down. Yeah, those types of Collective Soul.
I like those bands too, but we are both showing our age because those aren't modern anymore.
Well,
by the way,
but it's called modern rock because rock was like the Beatles started. No,
yeah.
Go back to the Beatles in some sense and form. Eagles. I mean, I listen to Heart 70s on the radio. That's on quite a bit, and some classics come on there every now and again. So, but I drift. My music changes. It drifts. Not gonna lie.
Okay. Any particular genre that you won't listen to that comes on and you're like, nah?
Believe it or not, probably Scottish music, Scottish country country dance. We have a program that comes on after. If we listen to the Scottish football and it finishes at say 6 o'clock, you've got 6 till 8 is traditional Scottish country dancing music, and it's not that I won't listen to it and I'll like it if I'm at a ceilidh, but do I want to listen to it on the radio at home? Probably not. It's not the most relaxing music.
Okay.
You need to be up doing an 8 some reel or a jig or something like that.
That's cool. It's high energy. It is high
energy, and you trust me, you sweat in the kilt. That's for sure.
Speaking of Scottishness and heritage, okay, question for you. You are conversing to me and I can understand you. Are you changing your accent for my benefit?
I am dumbing it down a little bit, yes. I'm
from
north of Scotland, so we speak Doric up here, which is a slang dialect of the Scottish language itself. I mean, you've obviously got your CU Jimmies and from kind of Glasgow area, but up here it's a Brabricht Moonlicht de Nicht. That's Doric, so it's a nice night. It's a nice moonlight tonight, but we would say it's a bra. Bra is a lot of the Scots dialects actually in Scandinavian words. So bra is good.
Really?
Bra is good in Norwegian and Swedish. So if you're build a bra, meet the bra, that's Swedish and Norwegian. Okay. Here's one for you.
Can I ask you?
Swedish language is the only language that has 11 digits counting to 10. Only language in the world that has 11 digits counting to 10. Why would that be?
Please explain. I don't know.
I'll say it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's to 10 in Swedish. So they're the only language that when they're counting to 10, they count 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There you go. Something that you might be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire one day, and that might be one of the questions. You just never know. Or the chase.
Yeah.
Deal on the chase.
Or trying to crack a Swedish safe.
Can I tell you so I've obviously traveled the world, and there's two specific in the same trip. 2 specific things happened to me that I'll never forget.
Go for it.
One of them was on a drill ship we were on. It was in Korea, South Korea, and I was on a drill ship, and I don't know why, but I woke up late, middle of the night, maybe midnight or something like that. Mm-hmm. I just needed to stretch my legs, so I went up to the bridge. Now, this is a vessel that's just been built. It's out doing sea trials off the coast of South Korea, and I just I'll go up to the bridge and see what's going on the bridge. And I goes up to the bridge and there's tens of people running about, screaming and shouting, and what's going on? Radios going, and I just happened to say, "What's happening?" And he said, "Look over there." And what's that? Look over there in the water. And he said, "That's a Japanese submarine." He says, "We've strayed into Japanese waters, and we've got 2 minutes to turn the vessel round, or we're going to be blown out the water." So, that kind of blew my mind as to what happens. And never let a Korean take you on a tour somewhere in a boat. So That's a lesson learned there. And then the second thing that happened, that same trip, we were in a nightclub, and I was escorted out by the Korean mafia at gunpoint. So I'm not going to go into the details why, but it wasn't my fault.
I love the way you tell stories because you get me hooked. You're like, I'm not going to tell you why. I want to know why, but like, obviously you might not be able to say. Okay.
We took the Australian assistant driller out for his birthday, and he got a little boisterous. Let's just say, and the lights went out, and the red dots appeared on our chests as from several different exits, and we got escorted out the building at gunpoint. So there you go. Same thing happened. So as a place I'll never forget, South Korea. Koyan Island.
Okay. Let's take it to the personal a little bit. Now, you mentioned you have kids. How many kids do you have?
I have two. Not so much children anymore. My daughter's 24 and my son's 22 in it's a few days now. 2 weeks' time.
They are grown. So. As a parent, you try to keep your kids away from danger. And then as they go older, you take away the stabilizers and they grow stuff. Do they know about your shenanigans and how you manage to kind of keep them on the straight and narrow, so to speak, if they know that stuff about you?
You've got to be flagrant with the truth a little bit, in all fairness. I think they know their dad is not a shrinking violet and won't be in anybody's company and just let anything happen. I mean, I'm the type of person who likes to enjoy themselves, and I encourage them to do the same. So, but do they know all the details? Probably not. Can I remember all the details? Probably not. So you could be a little bit flagrant with the truth. Let's just say.
In the unlikely event that they watch this, they probably won't. Would they have just got a revelation by hearing that story, or do they already know that part of the story?
I honestly couldn't answer that question. I don't know. I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay.
It wasn't me. Someone told me about it.
Speaking of enjoyment, on your LinkedIn profile, you refer to yourself as the Whisky Prince, which is a very cool title. Is it a self-title or is it bestowed upon thee?
Probably a self-title. Whisky Prince of Burritonia. So there used to be a LinkedIn live show called the Big Live Breakfast Burrito, and I was quite a contributor to that show and contributed a couple of. We did a Christmas special where I taught the audience how to taste a dram of whiskey, because let's be honest, I don't think many people do know how to taste a dram of whiskey. So
we need to get you back on to do that at some point.
I'll do it quickly. We want to do it now. It won't take long. So
hold on, wait. Let's get you zoomed in. Let's get you like.
So we have an iron brew, which is basically whiskey without the alcohol in it. So imagine that's a wee dram glass. So what you do is, what everyone tends to do with whiskey is go stick their nose in it and go, oh my god, it smells a what do you call it? PCP, finger cleaning fluid, nail polish remover, and that's it. It puts them off. So that's the biggest mistake that anybody does with a whiskey. But the first thing you need to do with a whiskey is understand what you actually drink or like, or do you drink rum? Do you drink wine, red wine, white wine? What is it you actually drink, Dale?
I mean, I also like whiskey.
Okay, but is there a specific non-whiskey spirit that you would drink? Wine? You like red wine?
Gin, if I'm honest.
Brandy?
I like red wine. I like gin. Yeah.
Gin?
Yeah, gin, red wine. If I'm drinking beer, it's going to be a darker beer as opposed to a lighter beer.
So there are specific whiskies that you can actually match to someone's taste. So, for example, I would never ask someone to try a Lafroig, which is, one of them.
One of my favourites, by the way.
One of your favourites, but you ask someone who doesn't like a smoky whiskey or a peated whiskey, nobody will they like that. So you've got to kind of tone it down and introduce a whiskey. But first thing you do is get your glass and you swirl it around. Swirl the whiskey around. Helps break down the oils a little bit, but gets the kind of aroma in there. Now what you do is you take it away from you at arm's length and you whiff it past your nose really quickly, and you say hello to the whiskey. So you go,
okay,
hello, but you're sniffing in at the same time. So you're doing hello. So what you're doing is your senses, particularly your nose senses, you're kind of wakening up, but what you're not doing is killing them, because you go like that and you're taking all the alcohol and phenine, is it? You're taking all that in, it just kills your senses and you hate it. So what you do is arm's length, say hello. Take it away again,
hello.
Swirl it round, and then you're going to ask a whiskey how it is. So you're going to do it again, but a little bit slower. So you say, how are you? And then take.
I mean, I don't have to say those words when I do it, right? Just do a quick one, slow one.
So it's, hello? How are you? Right? So now you've wakened up your senses. Now you're going to go in and you're going to, it's up to yourself if you want to make love to the whiskey. It really depends how you feel about it. But what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing again, put it away, and then you're going to, and then really get your nose in the glass, and you need to be, you'll start picking up the different flavors and the aromas, and then, only then, do you then take a little sip. But what you never do is you never drink the first sip. Take the little sip.
Okay.
Put it in your tongue. Just rock it back and forth in your tongue, and then, like mouthwash, bring it round.
Yep.
So it's hitting all the different taste buds. So you're picking up all the different flavors of the whiskey. So that,
you know what,
is how you taste or smell and taste a new whiskey.
Nuts to the business insight, nuts to the industry expertise. I feel like that's a life skill. So thank you for that. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
The only problem is you do it with don't do it with a 50, 60 pound a nip whiskey. Just, keep it around about the 8 to 10 pound. You're doing okay with that. You don't want to waste, that kind of whiskey on anybody that's never tried it before.
Okay, they're saying that. So what would you recommend as a first whiskey to someone who's going to try and get into it? You say
first whiskey would be a flowery Speyside, so something like a Dalwhinnie, maybe. Nice and easy floral notes to it. And again, same when you taste it, it's like toffee and almond, toffee kind of sweet tasting rather than that. But I mean, I'm an Islay man, so I like, Ardbeg, and I like a Lefroy quarter cask is actually one of my favourites. But one of the best value whiskies, I don't know if you guys have got Costco beside you, but Costco actually sell this particular bottling, and it's a Diageo bottling, and it's a Johnny Walker bottle called Double Black. So it's not Johnny Walker Black, it's Johnny Walker Double Black. And what it is it's a blend of, I think it's 17 of their distilleries, and it's the distillers' editions from each of that 17 distilleries, and they've blended it together. And honestly, it is. I've done taste tests with this particular bottling. I think Costco were selling it for £23, and I've done taste tests against bottles that are £100, and people go, "Oh, I really like that." So if you're looking for a good value, kind of little bit hint of smoky, kind of little smoky entry level kind of whiskey, that's my top tip, is to get a double black Johnny Walker.
Okay. I'm not a connoisseur like you, but can I give my recommendation as well? And it's recommended to me by someone who's been drinking whiskey for like 30 years, has some very expensive bottles in their collection. Good entry level one, about 30 quid. The Antiquary. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. But it's heard of it. Yeah, honestly, one of my favourites. First of all, the bottle looks amazing, which sounds silly for purchasing off, but the bottle looks really cool. But no, it tastes amazing. And again, the friend that introduced it to me, again, the actual connoisseur, like he's got a sommelier license in it. He was like, he can give this to people and they think it's a 150 quid bottle. Wow. It's delicious.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know
a
friend a guy I used to work with before, his dad swore by that bottle, the Antiquary. Absolutely swore.
It's one of my faves.
So there you go. So yeah, it's to say, you never ever force someone to drink whiskey, because if you do that, you'll put them off for life. I was like anybody else. 15, 16-year-old, went into Dad's collection and he had grouse and bells, and And even now, if someone offered me that, I still wouldn't take it. And that it put me off whiskey. I never started drinking malt whiskey till I was 40. I got a bottle each from my uncles. And I thought, I'm going to have to drink this. And they were decent bottles, 40 quid bottles. But actually, I did my research like I do with anything. Did my research on it, found out how to taste it, how to smell it, how to go about then collecting it, because I collect whiskey as well now. And I enjoy it. It's a bit of a pastime. I've been trying with a guy called Ross Jolly. Me and Ross has been trying to do an online live show just talking about whiskey, because it's a passion on both of us. And Ross has tremendous knowledge. He's actually the chairman of BAWS, which is BAWS, Bon Accord Whisky Society. So he's chairman of the BAWS. Okay.
He knows his stuff, obviously.
He does. He knows his stuff, and he's got a lot of good connections in the old distillery trade. And I think one of the things I find, it's actually from a business perspective, opens quite a few doors, because you find out someone likes the whiskey, start talking about it, start talking about what he's like, can actually lead to some quite good nights, and then lead to some good sales out of the back of it. So you just never know.
I love how that, let's be honest, in business, it kind of proves that it's a person-to-person thing. Like, that hasn't changed. Like, I've experienced this. Like, you need to kind of make relationships with people before you try and sell to them.
Absolutely.
Whether they're a whiskey person, a golf person, whether they like tennis, whether they don't like sports, football, whatever it is. Okay, do you mind if I ask you a very politically charged question?
Oh, okay.
Do you think that could backfire?
If I said no, are you still going to ask it?
Did you say no?
If I said no, are you still going to ask it?
No,
sorry, what was the question?
Do you think that could perpetuate the stereotype of the old boys club? Or do you know lots of women that like whiskey? Does that make sense? Because some people think.
Point. I don't know many women that like whiskey. Absolutely not. And it's probably from a stereotypical perspective, unless I was engaging with a female in a business perspective and whiskey came up, then I would talk about it in the same way, in shape and form. But there's quite a few master distillers. Rachel Barry's a very famous one, but there's a lot of distillers, actually female distillers, master distillers, who are, setting new standards and doing quite a bit. I try and do it every kind of Thursday, every other Thursday. I do Thirsty Thursdays, and I pick a distillery in Scotland, and I just share 10 facts in that distillery that I've went away, did a bit of research on, and there's some really interesting stuff, particularly a lot of diversity coming out, particularly around sustainability in the whiskey industry, where females are trend setting and leading the way in a lot of those spaces. So very interesting to read about.
Okay. You should check out our distillery based in Kent, Copper Rivet Distillery.
Copper Rivet.
They've got their own whiskey.
Okay.
Copper Rivet. Yeah, they're based in Medway. They've become a bit of a local legend. I say local, Kent's a big county, but a lot of people know their stuff. And in my opinion, it's pretty tasty. Would you like to hear a whiskey confession from me to you that might make you not my friend anymore?
Go for it.
I use Lafroig to marinate my chicken sometimes.
Fine.
As
long as you're not putting coke in it, as long as you don't put coke in it, I'm okay with that.
No. I just throw a little bit in my marinade mix before I put it on the smoker. And obviously it's already got the smoky flavour in it. Yeah. And people are like, damn, why does this taste so good? I'm like, because I used a little bit of whiskey in there.
People ask me, people get really hung up on how people take their whiskey, whether they've got, whether they take ice in it, whether they take it with soda, lemonade, whatever. I really don't care. Personally, I prefer it to be room temperature with nothing added. It's how it was made. That's my personal preference. But hey, you do you. If it's a nice warm day and you want to put 3 ice cubes in it, doesn't make any difference to me. In some cases, I read a really good article on Johnny Walker Blue Label, in how one particular reviewer used about 20 different methods of trying to taste the whiskey. And the one he found best was, from a Johnny Walker perspective, it's different for every different whiskey. For him, was to take an ice cube, put it on his tongue,
Yep.
and basically just put the ice cube on his tongue for about 10 seconds, put the ice cube away, and then take it. And the warmth of the whiskey would react with his taste buds and just, he went, it's the best way to taste that whiskey. And for him, try different ways to do it and you'll get different things out of it. If you've got a whiskey that's really high strength alcohol, so you get 100 proof whiskeys, 50, 63% alcohol in it. Some of them need a little bit of water, but some of the lower ABV whiskeys actually need a little bit of water just to break up the oils, and you get a totally different taste profile. It's, as I say, you do you, whatever works best for you, as long as you enjoy. As long as you enjoy it at the end of it.
Could you imagine going to a local and then licking an ice cube for 10 seconds and then drinking your whiskey? Like, I get it might be the best way to taste it, but no one's doing that in real life. No one's going to the bar.
That's for you.
Exactly. Cool. Do you have any particular questions for me, by the way? Because I've interrogated you and you've been very open.
Do you know what? I never thought about that, but now you're on about it. We're going to force you into one here. So, soccer is obviously, football is the kind of largest sport in this country. We also had a game last night that didn't actually happen. It was one of them that we'll forget about. But I'm a massive American football fan and have been since the 80s. Yeah. So what is your American football team and why?
Baltimore Ravens. In 2012, I was working in a call center and I knew nothing about American football. And some of the team there were like, "Oh, Dale, do you want to stay up and watch American football?" I was like, why not? And my friend Luke at the time, he explained to me like what American football actually is and why it's different from rugby. Yeah. And the way he explained to me, he said, "Dale, it's essentially a giant game of chess. And yes, the players and the athletes are amazing, and they are freaking amazing. They are, 120 kilo men who can run and 100 meters in 10 seconds are incredible. Yeah. But what you're also watching is you're watching the coach and the whole team play this game of chess with the players, as it were, on the field. And there's different kind of there's pawns, there's knights, there's the king. And when he explained it to me like that, and I was like, oh, I get it. Because at first I was watching it going, this is taking ages. What's happening? But when he was like, actually, they're doing these plays.
Another commercial break.
Yeah, that's American sports in general. So again, pseudo Baltimore Ravens fan. Do I know every player on the team? I kind of keep an eye on them. And when it comes to Super Bowl, I might step and watch Super Bowl when it's on. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge fan, but I've learned to appreciate it. So yeah, but again, for the tactics, I like it because it's
I like how you've learned to appreciate it, because anybody that I'm talking with, and I would try to get them into it, I do exactly the same. A lot of people, the reaction is, God, it takes too long, and God, there are people like it for different reasons. There are people like it because they like cheerleaders. There are people like it because they like specific players. But for me, I'm like you. I want to know the fabric of what it is. And have you ever been? I've been to a couple of games now, and I was at a live game in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's a full day thing. We left from where we left, Central Florida, just Daytona up to Jacksonville. It's an hour's drive, and it's it's all live. It's on the local radio, so you're hearing it. You arrive 4 hours before the game, and you're tailgating, so you're meeting all these such interesting people who are sharing their barbecue with you, who are and it's just awesome. And you've got guys with 90-inch TVs on the back of their trucks, and all these generators going, just supplying all the power, but they've got their satellite TV with them, and they don't even go into the game. Mm-hmm. They're just sitting in the car park, just there for the barbecue, for the atmosphere of being there, for meeting all these wonderful people. And there was one guy had a pickup truck, and he must have had about 100 different LA Chargers, at that time Los Angeles Chargers teddy bears in the back of his truck, just because that's what he wanted. And so you meet some amazing people, and then you get inside, and I paid a bit more because it was a one-off for me. Paid a bit more, had a bit of corporate in the bar, the free drinks and stuff like that, and I was basically sidelined. I actually shook the owner of the Los Angeles Chargers' hand as he's coming past.
That's really cool.
Shook his hand. I came out of the toilets, having just washed my hands, I will say. Next thing I'm getting pictures with Jacksonville cheerleaders. It's just, and then there's the game. It was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic. And when I say to people, I'm in it. I'm at the chess. I'm trying to suss out the plays, what I would do if I was there, and it's really interesting. And it's a sport that's kind of got a bit of a revival here. It was big in the 80s, and then kind of got a little bit of a revival now. And if you've ever been to a London game, it's really good. The rainbow of teams. There's 30 odd teams, and every jersey's represented at a game. It's not like there's a was it the Broncos game last year, and every single team's represented there. So it's good. I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, Americans support teams differently than us, right? Because in the UK, if you support a football team, football team, you support that team, and it's like a family thing, and there might be rivalry. But Americans have this thing like, oh yeah, that's my first team, that's my second team. Which I'm not going to lie, to me, I was like, that's really confusing.
Yeah.
I support a team.
I like Peyton Manning played for the Colts initially, and then the Broncos. I had this person. Didn't matter who he played for, they were just a Peyton Manning fan. So, if you get players that jump between 3 or 4 teams, that's suddenly their team because that particular player's there. And that's exactly what they're like. There's no like this. And the thing that I really liked, I'm a Broncos fan. I was wearing, it was a Jacksonville Chargers game I was at. And Chargers are like big rivals in the same division as the Broncos. But I got really pally with the 4 guys that were sat behind me who were from LA. And they were Chargers fans, and we spoke in between the game. Spoke with these guys. They asked me about Scotland and how they wanted to come over. I think a London game. And, it's just brilliant. I mean, it's so different. Here your fans are there. Then there's a big gate and a fence and police, and then the other fans are here. So it's totally different atmosphere. And then of course because it was Florida, they've got a pool just above one of the end zones, so you've got all these bikini-clad women in the swimming pool just above the end zone. It's mental. It really is mental.
Americans, they do fanfare exceptionally well.
They do it very, very well. Very well.
Cool. Before we shut this down, let's bring it back to business. Do you have any particular insights or bits of advice or nuggets you want to drop just so we go off before anyone who wants to come, any insights you want to give on either your position as CEO or your industry or your sector? What do you want people to know?
I mean, one thing that I find particularly with LinkedIn is, be you, be yourself. There are some CEOs on LinkedIn in particular that you can just tell that their posts are written by ghostwriters or 17 different people behind you. Be you, be honest, share. I'd like to think my profile reflects me. I'd like to think the way I challenge and comment on other people within LinkedIn, it reflects who I am, what I do, and what I want people to see me in business as. I'm a go-getter. I grab the bull by the horns and I don't let adversity get in my way. I mean, there are loads and loads of challenges that get put in front of you in business. But, crucial thing is, if you have a challenge, there's got to be a solution. And most important thing is someone will know what it is. So don't be scared to ask. It's not like it's not going to make you any less of a person coming out and saying, I just don't know that. There is going to be a network of people who have done and been through the same thing. I think I shared with you the last time we spoke that I had a big challenge in moving to a new IRP system and a new finance system and getting those things to gel. And I became very insular, and I tried to do everything myself and what I should have done is just came out and asked that question. Who's done this? Who can help me with this? You know what I mean? It's taking that mask off if you're in a role. It is difficult because, you've got shareholders to keep happy, but it needs to be a balance. You need to be genuine, and the face that you want to put out there is the face that you want people to see. Not put a mask on it. So take off the mask and don't be afraid to ask. There you go.
Fantastic. We're going to end it on that. Mark, Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, man. So I appreciate it.
I enjoyed that. It took loads of different diverse changes of direction, but I'll take it. And thanks for having me on again. And hope it was good. So speak to you all again. Have a good day.